maybe 10 years ago, I would say you have to go abroad. There's nothing here. But in 2020 in India, there's a lot of opportunity, and I feel like there's some really good programs in this country, and it may make sense to stick around if you're open to it as well.
Welcome to the Sportsbiz Show. Today we have with us Neel Shah, Program Director at the Global Institute of Sports Business and Head of Sports Education and New Business at India on Track, which is a leading sports agency with a global clientele ranging from Arsenal, NBA to LaLiga. Neel holds over 18 years of experience in the development and commercialization of football across North America, Europe and Asia. Today, we will be speaking with him about sports business careers for students, early level professionals and those looking to transition into the business. Let's dive into it. Neel, welcome to the podcast. So very excited to have you. The first question, this is probably over answered by you, but would love to get to know about your ingression into sports and just how you started about.
Yes, I will. I have answered this a lot, but I think it's an important question because anybody listening who is looking to get their foot in the door should know how others have done it. I was one of the lucky people because I was single focused. I was only focused on working in professional football. And growing up in the US, so for us, it's soccer, but I'll say football for the sake of the interview. And, I just put all my heart into getting a job at Major League Soccer one day. So while I was going through my undergraduate program at UC Santa Barbara, and even entering into my MBA in sports management program at Seton Hall, I put a lot of energy in trying to find my foot into the door at the MLS League office. And through a lot of conversations and others, I ended up just making a phone call to the front office of I got the receptionist at MLS, just did a cold call. And she answered, and I kind of told her my life story, and she put me on to the vice president of marketing at the time. And he listened to my life story and then how I could contribute to the league office and the growth of soccer in America. And eventually, one thing led to another. I got an internship interview, and then got an internship, which turned into a full-time job a few months later. So it was a pretty incredible journey, and I'm very glad it ended up getting my dream job.
Wow, that's truly inspiring. You mentioned that you had a very linear focus starting out. Do you recommend other students to have a linear focus where they start with maybe one sport or one particular skill and then expand, or would you recommend the exact opposite?
It's a very good question. I get this question a lot, especially at our Sports Management Institute. Things were very different back in 2000 and 2002 when I got into the industry compared to where they are in 2020. So back then, it would be good to be multi-skilled, of course, and try to look at and be open-minded to different types of jobs in the industry. But I'm very glad that I was single-focused then, because it allowed me to go deeper faster. And when I was given the opportunity that I got to speak to the vice president of marketing of MLS, I had all the right things to say because I've been thinking about this for so many years and working towards it for so many years. So I feel like I got opportunities provided to me that maybe other people who cold called MLS or sent CVs or LinkedIn messages may not have gotten. So for me, it worked out. For others, it might not work out that well. I'm not sure. But in 2020 and beyond, I would say that it's probably better to be multi-talented, mostly instead of multi-focused. So multi-talented meaning that make sure, pick up certain softwares and understand and learn them. Understand how to be strong at PowerPoint or Excel or other types of tools that are used, and then start to align them towards different parts of the industry that excite you, but maybe not put all your eggs in one basket. You can, and if anybody's ready for it, I'll always kind of give them a pat on the back and say, go for it. But it doesn't mean that to get into the industry, you have to be single focused, but definitely be multi-talented, have skills, understand the skills required in the industry, and find a way to get as good as you can at them as you're in the process of doing your job search as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's funny how people often in India sort of talk about moving abroad after working for a few years, just because they want to sort of work in a more developed, mature market for sports. You, on the other hand, had worked across very acclaimed positions in developed markets like Europe and the US with the MLS. What led you to then make a switch to India and work in an untapped territory, which you probably didn't have a lot of idea about at the time?
Yeah, it's probably it's still sometimes I think about it. It's been 11 years in India now, and I still sometimes go, what the heck what was I thinking back then? And it was, and when I say that, I say it jokingly because it was the best decision of my life. I had mentioned I got my dream job, which was Major League Soccer, and I was so blessed to be able to work at the league office at such an early stage. I got to be part of so many different big ideas and big decisions and programs and partnerships and helped to grow the fan base of Major League Soccer for 7 years, and that was incredible. And in that process, I also started exploring the world a bit more. So I took a couple of personal trips to India in 2007 and 2008. And I had actually never been to India before. So although I'm Indian of Indian origin, my family grew up here. We've been in the US as a family for a very long time. And, for me, I never had thought about what it'd be like to live in India or even work in India. And even travel in India seems kind of far away for me. So I just bought an airline ticket, and I flew out here in 2007. I backpacked around and I met a lot of people at the All India Football Federation, Nike, Adidas, and I used whatever contacts I had to just try to get a feel of the pulse of the country when it came to football. And I also went to my mother and father's respective villages and towns and got a real taste of the vibrancy and the opportunity in this country. And after those 2 trips, some bug, a good bug, a healthy bug got inside of me, an itch, and said, you know what, while I love my job at Major League Soccer, while I love the opportunity that I have, and I could stay there probably for the rest of my life until I retire, but there's some part of me that says, you know what, there's something magical brewing in India as it relates to sports. And I feel like I'm uniquely positioned to be a part of the industry's growth because I had grown up in a very organized soccer market or sports market in the US. I'd also been part of the growth of let's say a sport like soccer or football that's a bit smaller than a lot of the other bigger sports in the US. And I was helping to watch, kind of be a part of its growth. And I feel like, well, cricket is what it is in India, but football has a lot of potential. I think I could take a lot of what I've learned in the US and bring it to India. And finally, I just thought, you know what, this would be an amazing adventure. And sometimes in life, you just got to have faith in yourself and have faith in the universe and just go. So I did the thing that nobody expected, is resign from Major League Soccer and join Dentsu in sports marketing and with part of the growth of the football industry over here, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow. Were some of those, if I may dig deeper, were some of those conversations very innovative? Were you open to could you tell the difference between the sort of innovation that India is planning to bring forth in the future? And could you tell whether you wanted to bring in more innovation from the US, or there's more that the West could also learn from the East based on those conversations that you had very early on, maybe 11 years back?
So what I saw was optimism. And it wasn't from everyone in Indian sports. If you go travel around, and let's be honest, there's, especially in 2007, 2008, there was a lot of people who were, especially in sports that were not cricket, saying, I've tried everything. It's not happening. India is this and India is that, and people just don't want, and sports are never going to make it, and it's only cricket. And you hear all of that. Fine. But my mind is wonderfully a bit able to filter negativity and unjustified negativity and pick up on positive and optimism and positivity. And so in the process, I met a handful of people that were the completely opposite. They said, you know what? India has everything to be a football powerhouse or in a recent sporting potential. It just requires more a collective movement of people to bring intelligence and passion and patience and partnerships and collaboration together and all of these things. And we can do it as a country. And I felt the same thing in my days at Major League Soccer in 2002, 2003. Most people in the sports industry were saying there's no way that professional soccer can make it in America. We tried it with the NASL. It's not a sport that people are going to respect at the top levels. They play it when they're younger. And then I watched for the next many years the brilliant minds at the MLS League office turn soccer into a very, very commercial property in America. And I got to see that. And when everyone else was saying it ain't happening, I saw it from the inside. So I already came to India with almost a sneak peek at something that no one else believed could happen. And I saw it happen based on a few bright minds and a lot of energy and moving in the same direction. So when I came here, I didn't know how it was all going to happen. I just knew that I needed to find good people who were willing to commit, 10, 15, 20 years to grow. In this case, for me, it was football, but to grow sports and make the ecosystem professional. And I would be able to feel like I had some small role to play in that. So in terms of innovation and all that, it wouldn't even get to that point. At that point, it just find good people who believe in what they're doing and have the patience to see it through. And that's what I've been able to do. And I've been so lucky because when I look back, I'm like, you know what, I was lost, but thankfully I met so many awesome people who guided me along the way, and we've been able to make some pretty cool things happen as well.
That's great to hear. You mentioned some really key points there, especially to do with patience. And I think that's something that, especially in the Indian sports ecosystem, which is developing so much at such a rapid pace, but still requires so much patience from everybody. The next question I want to dive into is, on your expertise at the moment, which is leading a premium program for sports management in India with the Global Institute of Sports Business. For the uninitiated, could you tell us a little bit more about GISP and perhaps what were the early challenges in setting up a sports management program in India?
Yes, I'd be happy to. It's really my favorite project I've ever worked on in my entire life, which is fun to say because I've worked on a lot of cool things, but this is something special. It's a consolidation of so many years of experience of not just mine, but so many other industry professionals put it together. So what it is India's first industry designed and delivered postgraduate program in sports management. We have an actual physical campus here in Mumbai, which I'm sitting at right now. We have students who come from all over the country who do this postgraduate program. And what makes it special is that it's solely focused on developing our students to be able to be leaders in the industry solely. And it sounds like maybe other institutes could say the same thing, but I feel like what we do very special is we make sure that the people who are teaching, the faculty, they are individuals with anywhere from 10 to 30 years of experience in the sports industry. So they're not just coming in for a guest lecture, they're actually coming in and delivering particular modules based on real world applications of theory that the students will be learning. We also have very strong relationships with industry organizations like Premier League and Chelsea FC and Borussia Dortmund and a lot of organizations here in India. So the students are getting a lot of engagement and interactions with most of the employers that they'd probably want to work with, the organizations they want to work with. And one of the other cool things, one of the things I love the most is that we spend a lot of time on personal development of the students. So it's not just like a weekend boot camp where they're learning elevator pitches, but we're actually spending months on mind, body, and soul development. So we do improv acting classes, we do a little bit of meditation or yoga, or we'll have them work on neuro-linguistic programming, which is about mindset and optimal mindset, and all of these things that help them become a more holistic person. And knowing that all of those, if you're stronger as a mind, body, and soul perspective, then you're going to be a much better leader or somebody who's going to be more effective in the sports industry as well. So that's GISB in a nutshell. We keep a smaller, more intimate cohort size, so usually around 35 to 40 students. And it's, as I mentioned, it's a 15-month program. And to answer your second question is some of the challenges when we were setting it up. We set it up in 2018. And it's all under India on Track, which is a sports management and marketing company. So it's a part of a larger network of the IoT family, but also a lot of our clients, which include LaLiga, Major League Baseball, Roland Garros, and Premier League, and many others as well. So it's a pretty extensive and high profile network that is all feeding into GISP. What was difficult setting it up is that we didn't want to be like any other program. We wanted to pioneer something new. So when you do that, it does take a lot more time because there's no precedent for what you're doing. You're just doing it based on what you believe is right. So we took some time to figure out the pedagogy, the pathway, that structure, and that was unique, but that also makes it fun. Another harder thing, which, it ended up being kind of working out much better than we could imagine, but finding an international partner. See, at the end of the day, we're industry people, so we need academic credibility. And we had to find an educational institute that was willing to partner with us to give us at least that academic credibility that this is much more than just a bunch of sports management professionals who put something together, but this also has that stamp of approval from people who've been doing this for a long time. And while, we were all, we searched around the world for the right partner, we are very fortunate to have University of Massachusetts Amherst become our partner. And they've always been known as one of the top programs in the world. I know your program, the one that you went to as well in Columbia, is also one of the best out there. And we are very fortunate that UMass came on board. The final thing I'll say on this is this. One of our continual biggest challenges is one of the things I'm happy to talk about more later if it comes up is that I wanted students that we have to deal with the business school mindset. The B school mindset in India is very, very, it's too straightforward. If I pay this much money and I go to this program and I'm going to get this degree, I'm going to sit for placements and I'm going to get this particular package. And unfortunately, the sports industry in India doesn't work like that. And so our education programs that cater to the industry also can't work like that. And when that happens, and so much of what we have to do is help our students and their parents unlearn the B school mindset and start to get into the sports industry mindset, which is a lot more. And as you know, Ananya, it's a lot more about just outreach and connections and relationships and doing things outside of the classroom and being innovative and enterprising with your time. It's not just about that degree. It's not just about those marks. And it's just not just about the package that you're going to get, because placements is not guaranteed. It's a whole different world. And for you to be successful in this industry and to go through a program and get a great placement, it's going to take a lot more than what you might see friends and family do in other industry academic programs. And we had to work and deal with a lot of that. And that's okay, because I understood that was the case, but we're still going through that process. And I felt like that was something I wasn't as prepared for, because, you can say all the right things, but until somebody goes through that journey with you, and then you see how many layers that their mom, their dad, their uncle, their auntie, their neighbor, their friend's friend, their friend's friend, they're getting information and influence from so many people. So it's rarely about that student. It's about educating their whole network of people that, hey, it's okay. This person's following their heart. They're in a program that's going to help them become a better professional. And in the end, if they work hard, there's something at the end of the tunnel. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what we just try to focus on. Work hard, and I promise you there's something out there, but you have to be a bit more creative as well.
Absolutely. I think that advice is going to resonate with a lot of people. There are some specific questions that I've gathered over time from professionals, from young professionals and students kind of looking to enter the sports industry. I think the number one question that comes about is, how should one decide if a career in sports is the right path for them?
So there's three terms that I use quite a bit, and I believe in them so much. It's passion, it's purpose, and superpower. And passion is clear. It's what you love, and it's what makes time go fast. It's what puts you in the zone in a lot of ways. Your purpose is how you want to contribute to the world. And your superpower it's like that extra strength, that extraordinary strength that you have, that thing that comes almost naturally to you. And it could be many, many things. I always recommend that anybody, it doesn't have to be young people, it could be anybody, reflect on themselves and try to figure out what is their passion, what is their purpose, and what is their superpower. And if one or more of them align with the sports industry, I say go for it. Because the sports industry is roughly a $700 billion industry. It's not like some small rinky-dink thing that's just out there that just popped up. It's a legitimate industry. It's one of the biggest in the world in terms of revenue and employment. And it's, as we see, even during these really, really difficult times of COVID, sports stops for a while and then just keeps going. And it's because people really love this industry, love sport, and love their favorite athletes, their teams, their leagues, their whatever it might be. So if you are good at something, and you feel like you can contribute to the industry, well, there is going to be a job out there somewhere for you. And in that job will pay you. So it's not about the sports industry seeming like a risk anymore, where, okay, I could go into IT, or I could go into engineering, or I could go into banking, or I could go here, and that's safer. Sports, okay, I'll take the risk. I don't like that mindset that much, because I think that if you're good, if you work hard and put your heart and soul into something, there's going to be somebody out there who wants to hire you and pay you money for the services you're providing, whatever industry you're in. Sports happens to be a massive industry that's growing exponentially in certain countries, in certain parts of the world. I think go for it. But if sports doesn't align with any of those three, then you might want to look at something that aligns with one or more of those.
Absolutely. Also, what would your thoughts be on people bringing skills from those different industries that people usually consider more traditional and safer into the sports industry? I feel like a lot of people just don't look at sports or don't know how to break down the industry essentially, but they should at least be applying the same skills that they can apply to any other industry. And I think that's a good way to look at it. What would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, you need trained professionals to work in the sports industry. Now, trained professionals, back in the day, a trained professional for the sports industry is somebody who understands sports, like completely understands it, can jump in, can be part of the conversation. Now, a trained professional in the sports industry doesn't have to be somebody who is deeply connected to sport. It can be somebody, let's say for Dream 11. Dream 11 is hiring probably a lot of computer science people and engineers and others. And Dream 11 is one of the biggest and fastest growing sports companies in India, at least. Many companies in sports are looking for just professional is the primary word. Sports, I think, is a secondary word. So even if you worked for a couple of years in other industries, it's okay as long as you can package what you've learned and you can start bringing it into the sports industry. The tough thing is, and what people need to understand is that you have to put in the energy to research the sports organization industry and see where you can add value. So I might have I didn't, but say somebody worked in banking for 10 years. They understand financial numbers, they understand equity, investments, debt, all of that. Now, they might say they love Manchester United. They dream of working with Manchester United. Now, that doesn't mean that person can't get a job at Manchester United. It won't be easy. It'll be very hard. But if that individual, he or she can package what they've learned, take it, and then start to ask the right questions to the right people who work at the levels of, the top football clubs in the world, and understand where those skills and that knowledge would be able to add value to them, whether it be from financial consulting, or it could be from, looking at the finance department, or it could be in other areas of their business. And then you're able to be creative enough to get the right platform to the right people over at United. You never know, and you got to try. But just working in something else and saying, I'm really passionate in sports, I want to work there now, it will never happen. You have to do the research to understand how can your select set of experiences and skills and personality add value to that organization. If you can show that, there's going to be a lot of chances for you. If you can't show that, you'll always be on the bench waiting to get a chance to get into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that does provide a lot of clarity to a lot of people. Another question that comes up is a sports management degree, a master's or an MBA or an undergrad for that matter, the only way to get into the sports industry?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I'm sure if you speak to many, many people who've been very successful in helping to grow the sports industry, they would say that they never went to a sports management postgrad program or MBA program. That being said, even if I wasn't running a sports management program, I would say this, I'm a big believer in it. Why? It's because when you're in a program, so say you like sports, and I just mentioned these things about superpower, passion, and purpose, right? It's not always easy to find those out, but say you do. Say you do a lot of self-reflection, you understand these three areas of kind of what makes up these three areas for yourself. Even then, to connect that to the sports industry is not that easy because you don't know which part of the ecosystem you fit in. Do you want to be at the league level? Do you want to be at the club level? Do you want to be at the startup sports tech area? Do you want to be in the media side, broadcasting, or whatever it might be? Do you want to be in ops? Do you want to be in international partnership? As I said, it's a $700 billion industry. So it's not just like, okay, I like sports, I'll take a job in HR for a hockey team, an ice hockey team in America, and I'll be happy. No, I don't think it works like that. So what a postgrad program does is it gives you time to kind of understand the field. It gives you time to understand the ecosystem of sports and do a little bit of ops work, do a little bit of consultancy work, do a little bit of market research, and see what aligns with you, what feels right, and also meet a lot of people along the way and hopefully find your place in the sun that's going to give you more happiness when you get in. If you don't go through a program, through a lot of creativity and relationships and enterprise, you could probably still find your way into a job in sports. It's very doable, and many people do it. But is that the right pathway for you? Who knows? And then if you're in and then you don't like it and you leave, it's hard to get back in. And even if you get back in, who's to say what area is good for you? Because you never got time to try it out. So I always say that if you're really clear that you want to work in sports, go do a postgrad program. Use that time wisely to play the field, and then figure out which pitch is right for you. And I think it works pretty well for those who take advantage of the unique opportunity that a sports grad program or postgrad program offers a student.
In which situation, though, should people choose to go abroad for a program or stay in India? How should people kind of tally both options and decide?
Yeah, it's an important question, and and I have very strong opinions about it, but not always appreciated opinions. But because I imagine these interviews, you'd want honesty versus the diplomatic answer. I'll be the honest answer. My honest answer is the only reason why somebody should go abroad to get a sports management degree is if they genuinely just want to live abroad. Like if they're very clear that they want to live in a different country, they want to experience what it's like to live in a different country. They want to grow. Because you get to grow when you're you're out of your comfort zone. I'm a big believer that people should do that. I've lived abroad in different times of my life, and I am right now, and I love it. And I think it's an incredible experience that money can't buy almost. If somebody is looking to, if they're focused solely on getting a job in the industry when they graduate from their postgrad program in sports, I would recommend them to think many, many times before they take that. They make that move. And I'll explain why I say that. It's because when you go abroad, and I'm going to speak on behalf of Indians right now in this case, but it could be many people from many countries, because as long as you don't have a passport from that country, it's the same for anybody almost. So, but I've seen a lot of Indians, they go abroad, and I know you did as well. And you are one of the people that I say is one of the more enterprising people I've met, that who's taking advantage of whatever platform you get. So you're not in the majority of what I'm talking about right now. But I've seen many people a little disillusioned. They think that, okay, if I go to an international program, one of the top ones in Europe or Australia or the US, I pay all that tuition money and I graduate. Well, definitely, at least I'll get some opportunity in that country to stick around there longer. And then if I work hard enough, I'll get a full-time job. And that should be the case. And I wish that was the case. But unfortunately, the way the industry works is if you go there without a lot of unique experiences, you're competing against all the people from that country to get a job. And those same people who are citizens of that country have the same degree that you got or something similar. And it's a lot harder. It's hard for the HR departments of these sports organizations to justify sponsoring your visa when they have all these citizens who are vying for the same job, who may or may not have more experience than you in sports. So then you come back to your home country, and it would be brilliant if that degree was your ticket to get a job at the top sports organizations in your home country. If you could just walk into IMG Reliance or Mumbai Indians or Bangalore FC or JSW Sports and say, hey, look, here's my degree from this program in the West. Can I have a 10 lakh salary and start tomorrow? Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that either. So then you have a lot of people who spent a lot of money abroad, who have had a lot of experiences, and they come back to their home country and they are not able to get a package, or they're not guaranteed a job. And if they get a job, that package won't justify even close to what they've spent on their education. And even what they've learned is not always relevant to what they're doing on a regular basis in India, just because they're vastly different markets. They're vastly different sports landscapes. So I always, whenever I advise people, I'm like, I'll never say don't go abroad. I'll never say don't trust. Because if you're 100% sure you want to go live in the US or Australia or Europe, go for it. What a great experience in life. But go with an understanding that, go with some awareness. Go with clarity that this might be how it turns out and I'm okay with that. Without thinking pessimist, as a pessimist, go with belief that, hey, I can get a job. And it could work out, but also be realistic about how it could be as well, because then you're prepared in case it doesn't work out, that you've built good roots in India or your home country, and you can easily come back to something special over here. In India also, there's so many sports organizations, global ones like Premier League or LaLiga or Major League Baseball or Roland Garros tennis, whatever it might be. They're all in India, either full-time or trying to look at different ways to build their brand here. City Football Group has ownership in the country with Mumbai City FC and others. So I feel that if your dream is to one day work for international sports organizations, you can stay right here in India and have a better chance to work for some of the biggest brands in sports globally just by using your platforms over here in the right way. So maybe 10 years ago, I would say you have to go abroad. There's nothing here. But in 2020 in India, there's a lot of opportunity. And I feel like there's some really good programs in this country. And it may make sense to stick around if you're open to it as well.
That provides a lot of information. Thank you for covering that. I know that while applying for jobs, when I got out of the program at Columbia, I obviously made a lot of mistakes, and I was learning along the process, and I networked a lot. I spoke with you as well. I visited the campus in Mumbai while I was going through that process. So there's been a lot of hit and trial, but what are the mistakes that you see students out of the program or in general when you speak to younger professionals or even people who are transitioning into the sports industry? Mm-hmm. What mistakes do they make, or what mistakes can they avoid making while applying for positions?
Yeah, and all those mistakes are not all bad as well, because you learn so much, and then you're going to be such a great mentor, and if you're already becoming one because you've learned through the process as well. But yes, some things I've touched on earlier, but I'm going to say them again because I think they're that important, is please get out of that business school mindset. Before you join a program, you don't need to know what your dream job is. You don't even need to know exactly what you want to do after the end of the program. It's okay. But just understand that in the 12 to 24 months of that program, the program director, nor the faculty, nor your batchmates know what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, they don't know what you want to do. So if you're looking for the program to guide you exactly on what your dream job is or what you want out of the program, they're not going to know. It's like a gym, right? When you go to a gym or a fitness, unless you share with the head of that fitness club or your personal trainer, that I want to lose weight, or I want to build muscle, or I want a six pack, or they're going to say, hey, here's all the equipment. You can do Zumba classes and Soul Cycle over there. This is the time. You can go to, these are the weights over here. These are the dietitians over here. And these are like the gym instructors go for it. We're giving you everything. You figure it out. And there's going to be some support and check-ins, but ultimately, if you're confused for most of the program, you're going to probably be confused after the program as well. So try through self-reflection, through experiments of different internships and projects and volunteering and everything else, to start to get some semblance of what you want to do. Some semblance. Partnerships for sports organizations, or I would look for work for an agency and do business development, or I like market research. Just start to understand. Then when you start to understand, your conversations with the faculty will be more aligned with that. Your projects that you work on will be more aligned with that. Your research will be more aligned with that. Your LinkedIn messages to people will have a little bit more depth to them and clarity on how you're approaching people. When you're speaking to somebody, they'll just get you a little bit better, because somebody on this side, we're just speaking to somebody with passion and excitement. So unless they give us some clarity, we don't know what to do with them. So my biggest recommendation is go into the program knowing that you're on your own until you understand what is it you want to do, and you can have the confidence to ask for support, and then everyone will rush to support you. But if you go through it believing that the program is going to guide you through it and help you get the job, you're going to be one of those very disillusioned, disheartened people at the end of the program who struggles to figure out what happened over the last 12 to 24 months. So don't make that mistake. Just go in and use every day as an opportunity to grow, and every day as an opportunity to get a little bit closer to getting clarity in what you want to do.
Yeah, there's absolutely so much truth in there. I hope that resonates with a lot of people and they get an idea of how to maneuver through the program as well. Now, this is a rapid fire to answer a few pertinent questions on learning and skills in general. So The first question is, what books would you recommend to become a better manager or a leader?
Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is a book by James Clear, and I feel like everything comes down to positive habits, inculcating positive habits and having negative habits out of your system. The other one that I read a lot is the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita plays a big role in my life because when everything is crazy, it just gives me a sense of groundedness and peace, and connected to the divine, connection to the divine. So both of those I'd recommend.
That's great. Atomic Habits is actually on my list too, so I feel like this is a sign from the universe. I need to get to reading that sooner. 3 skills you would recommend for a better career in the sports industry?
Okay, communication for sure. I mean, that could technically be all 3, but communication is the most important. The second one is strategic planning. Understanding how to plan things strategically. Take your time and build it out over the short and long run. And the third one is it's emotional regulation. Being able to regulate your emotions. It's a chaotic industry. It's very, very wild. And how do you manage yourself in a way that is still effective no matter what's going on around you? I'd say that's very important.
Last question. One word that describes the Indian sports ecosystem according to you.
I'm going to say 2. So sorry to break your rules. Unlimited opportunity. Unlimited opportunity. I think this has so much opportunity in this country. It's beautiful. We're just scratching the surface.
Great. My absolute last question is, what's a piece of advice you'd want to impart to students, young professionals, those looking to make a transition into the sports industry in India?
It's worth it. It's worth it. Go for it. When my whole prep ethos is that in life, if you start working from the age of 22 to say 65, you're working almost 100,000 hours in your life. It's almost 100,000 hours if you add it up by like 45-hour work weeks and X amount of weeks a year and so on. But it's a basic comes to 100,000 hours. And you want to enjoy as many of those 100,000 hours as possible because it actually feeds into the rest of your hours as well. If you love what you're doing and you enjoy it and you enjoy the people and you enjoy the contribution you're making, you feel good. And when you feel good, you spread that goodness to other people in your lives as well. And in your life as well. And so I believe it's such a worthwhile venture to put everything into working in an area of life that you're passionate about. And if people listening to this are passionate about sports and the sports industry, then stop at nothing to get there. If everyone in your world tells you don't do it, but your heart tells you to do it, then do it. But you have to work hard and believe that you can be successful and add value. If you don't, then you probably won't be successful in this industry. But if you actually add value to this industry, even if it's a very small two-member team and you're just doing $100 worth of revenue a year, who cares? You're getting to do what makes you happy. So the most important thing is to believe that it's worthwhile and then put everything you got to make it happen.
Thank you for that perspective, Neel. That was very helpful. I personally learned a lot as always, and hopefully everybody listening to this will do as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Always great to talk to you, Ananya.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. At the Sportsbiz Show, the aim is to get you the best interviews, trends and tips from the world of sports business. It will be really helpful if you could subscribe and rate the podcast. This would go a long way in helping the show get discovered and add value to more sports biz enthusiasts and professionals like yourself. Please feel free to connect on LinkedIn or Instagram. Links will be in the description. Thank you, and until next time, keep the Josh high.